February, late 2010s, northern Wisconsin, Chequamegon-Nicollet area. We hit a farmhouse on a quiet raid, off the books. Found a basement door chained from the outside. Then our radio started carrying voices none of us were saying. Out by the marsh, something moved in the dark like it knew our names. We should have pulled out. We went in. So before we continue, please make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel and comment down below where you're watching from. Thanks. I never thought I'd talk about this again. Most days I pretend it was some cold weather nightmare my brain cooked up. But the interviewer sits across from me in this little studio, mic glowing red, coffee going cold. He keeps asking about weird missions, strange calls, the kind of stuff nobody puts on paper. Then he says it. Staff Sergeant Cole was at the Skinwalker incident you mentioned off record? I don't answer. I just close my eyes. And when I open them again, I'm not in the studio. I'm back in northern Wisconsin, winter of the late 20-teens. Snow up past the ankles and the sky hanging low like it's waiting to smash the world flat. The place was somewhere near the Chequamegon-Nicollet, not far from Mellon. Thick woods. Roads nobody plowed anymore. The Army stuck my squad onto a small task force for what they called a domestic extremist raid. Off the books, quick in and out. Nothing official, nothing to talk about later. We'd done missions like that before, nothing special. But this one had a stink on it from the start, even if none of us admitted it. They told us a group of locals had been running guns through the area. Some missing persons rumors, some animal attacks that didn't match wolves or coyotes. That was the part briefed fast, like they hoped we wouldn't have time to ask questions. My squad was 8 bodies. I was Staff Sergeant Alex Cole, early 30s. Tired even on good days. Just wanted my guys alive and my ruck squared away. Corporal Mason was my right hand, rifleman, smart mouth. More jokes than sense sometimes, but he kept morale up when things got dark. Specialist Reyes ran the radio and the drone kit. Quiet kid. Always looked like he needed more sleep. PFC Harper was new to off-book stuff. Good shot. Nervous energy. Jumped at shadows but tried hard. Daniels and Price rounded out the rifle line. Steady hands, no drama. And Doc Harlow, older than all of us, medic with zero patience for nonsense. Claimed he didn't believe in anything he couldn't stitch up or tape down. Then there were the outsiders. Agent Carter was the federal lead. Clean haircut, colder eyes. He said little and expected us to move fast. Agent Locke was his shadow. Didn't talk much, didn't smile, didn't blink. He watched the tree line more than us. We rolled up in 2 trucks onto a closed logging road at dusk. Wind bit through the layers. The snow was that powdery kind that squeaks under boots and hides broken branches that wait to twist ankles. Everyone piled out, checking gear. I did my usual rounds, hand on each soldier's kit. Quick nods. Reyes, radio check. He lifted the handset. Loud and clear, Sarge. Harper, scope clean. Clean enough, she said, breath already fogging. Mason, I said. He grinned. Don't worry, boss. I brought my good lucky charm. That the one that keeps getting you written up, same one, normal banter. Exactly what I wanted. Nobody thinking too hard. Carter came over and pointed down the narrow trail leading deeper into the woods. Half-mile that way. You'll see the clearing and the house. Move quiet, no lights. Roger, I said. Locke didn't say anything. Just stared past me into the darkness between the pines like something there was staring back. We started the walk, snow crunching, branches creaking from the cold. Every few minutes an owl called out somewhere farther in. I kept the pace slow so no one slipped. Harper whispered from behind me, "Feels dead out here." "It's winter," Doc muttered. "Everything with sense is under the ground or in a den." Mason nudged her. "Relax. Worst thing living out here is some big drunk beer." She didn't laugh. The trail curved left around a stand of old pines, and the first bit of farmhouse roof peeked through the branches. One upstairs window had a faint yellow light, probably a generator or lantern. The barn stood off to the right like a hunched shadow. Behind all that stretched a wall of trees leading to swampy ground we had only seen on the map. I held up a fist. Everyone dropped low. Routine stuff. I checked the radio. "Reyes, get the drone ready but hold launch." "Copy." We spread out, forming a loose line as we approached the clearing. I counted heartbeats, breaths, the weight of snow on my gear. Everything felt normal. Cold, miserable, but normal. Carter pushed up beside me. No movement from what we saw earlier. Keep it tight. Any intel on how many inside? I asked. He shook his head. Never liked that. As we got closer, the smell of wood smoke drifted on the air, faint but present. Probably the stove inside. Good sign. Meant someone was home. I pointed Daniels and Price toward the right flank. Harper and Mason took the left. Reyes stayed behind me, keeping his radio tucked inside his jacket so the cold wouldn't drain the battery too fast. The clearing was quiet. Too quiet maybe, but winter quiet, not spooky quiet. The house itself was a 2-story wooden thing with peeling paint and a porch that sagged under snow. Barn door hung open a bit, swaying with each light gust. A few old tools half buried in drifts, nothing out of place for a place like this. I remember thinking it'd be fast. Bust in. Detain whoever was hiding guns. Catalog the intel. Back to the trucks before midnight. Carter leaned close. We go on your call, Staff Sergeant. Roger. Behind us, Locke scanned the tree line again. The guy barely even breathed. His eyes moved like he expected something long dead to step between the trees. I brushed it off. Figured he was just jumpy. I gave the hand signal. Everyone moved into their places. I could hear their breathing in my headset, steady, controlled. Professionals doing a job. Nothing weird, but the sky was heavy. The smell in the air felt wrong, something metallic under the cold. My radio crackled softly, barely noticeable. I frowned and tapped it. Just interference. Happens out there. Still, Harper whispered over the net. Sarge, thought I saw movement behind the house. Where? Left side. Something tall. Tree shadow, Mason muttered. Quit twitching. Harper didn't answer. I gave the final nod to Carter. We stacked on the porch steps, snow slipping under our boots. Reyes set the drone down behind us in the snow, waiting for my signal. Doc had his aid bag clutched tight, breath steady. Everything was lined up. Perfect, clean. The kind of moment you don't think twice about because it's routine. The kind of moment where you don't know everything is about to go sideways. And right as I reached for the door, the interviewer's voice echoed back from the present like someone whispering through a dream. When did you first realize something was wrong? I didn't answer him then. Didn't answer myself either. But looking back, the answer was simple. Right there. Right before we stepped inside a raid that, officially, never happened. We fanned out around the house, snow brushing our knees. The cold bit harder the closer we got to the tree line. Nothing moved. No voices. No light from the lower windows. Just that single dim glow upstairs. Doc crouched near the left corner of the house and froze. Hey Cole, he called quietly. You need to see this. I moved over, boots crunching slow. Harper followed, rifle up. The deer lay half under a pine bough, body twisted like it tried to crawl away before dying. Limbs bent the wrong way. Rib cage pushed outward, like something inside had tried to punch its way out. The meat didn't look eaten, more like someone tore it apart to see how it worked. Mason stepped up behind us. Damn. Wolverines. No tracks, Doc said. None. He was right. Fresh snow all around it. No prints. No paw marks. No tire tracks. Nothing but faint drag lines leading toward the marsh and fading fast. Harper cleared her throat, voice thin. Could be traps or something, right? Someone screwing around. Then where are the trap marks, Doc said. This is wrong. Reyes came over with the drone case hugged to his chest like a life jacket. His hand shook as he set it down. Maybe locals shot it and dragged it. I don't know. Dragged backward, Mason asked. Reyes didn't answer. Carter and Locke approached from behind the barn. With them was another guy I didn't recognize. Heavy coat, tribal badge on the sleeve. He moved quiet, like he'd been out here his whole life. Carter said, "This is Officer Elias White, local contact." White nodded at us. His face was calm, eyes sharper than anyone else's around. He looked at the deer like it was a bad omen, not just a corpse. He spoke to Carter first, low voice. "It's worse tonight. You shouldn't have come." "We have orders," Carter said. White's gaze shifted to me. For a second, I felt like he could see everything I didn't want to think about. He walked closer, stopping just out of rifle reach. "Staff Sergeant," he said, "stay away from the marsh past midnight, and if you hear your own voice, ignore it." Mason snorted. Okay, that's comforting. White didn't smile, didn't even blink. Carter cut him off. Thanks. We'll handle the rest. White stepped back toward the trees, watching us like he already knew how this night would end. I signaled Reyes. Drone up. He knelt in the snow and launched it. The little thing buzzed into the gray sky, lights dimmed. He guided it over the roof, down the backside of the farmhouse, then toward the marsh. The feed streamed into his handheld screen. Roof's clear, he said. Barn looks empty. Then the video flickered. Just a second. Like static had grabbed the signal and shaken it. Reyes, I whispered. Getting interference near the marsh. What kind? Don't know. Never seen the feed do this. The screen glitched again, frames tearing, lines running across it. Something tall flickered across the image, right at the edge of the marsh. A shape, thin, standing straight. The proportions looked wrong, but before any of us could say a word, the feed cut out for a heartbeat. Then it came back. The shape was gone. Reyes swallowed hard. Probably a tree. Mason leaned in. Since when do trees stand like they're waiting for a bus? Knock it off, I said. Keep eyes open. That's all. We moved again. Quiet, steady. The house loomed ahead. The barn creaked with the wind. The marsh lay beyond like a black pit waiting. Static hissed low on the radio. Barely there. Could have been the cold, could have been nothing. Then Harper tensed, hand tight on her rifle. Sarge, she whispered. Someone just said my name on the channel. Who? I don't know. Soft. Like breath. No one called you, I said. Probably crosstalk. Reyes shook his head. We're the only ones on this frequency. Then fix it later. Focus now. But even I felt it. This pressure in the air, like something listening to us breathe. I pushed it aside. Mission first. Weird later. Always the rule. We lined up along the farmhouse walls. Mason, at point. Price and Daniels covering the barn approach. Doc in the middle, Harper on the rear corner, watching the woods. I checked my rifle, checked my radio. Felt the cold sting my face. Everything still felt routine. Hide the nerves, do the job. That was the rhythm. Carter stepped up beside me. Move when ready, I nodded. One last glance at the marsh. The reeds shifted on their own, no wind pushing them. Just a faint movement, barely visible. A line of dark cattails bending like something heavy had brushed past them. I didn't mention it, didn't want to spook the kids. But in the back of my head, a small voice started tapping on the door. Something's off. Something's waiting. We pushed forward anyway because orders don't care about bad feelings. The last thing I remember from that approach was the house glowing faintly through the frost-covered windows and the marsh behind it, quiet and dark like a mouth about to open. The entry went smooth. Too smooth, looking back. We stacked on the front door. Mason pushed it with his boot, and the hinges groaned like they hadn't moved in years. Inside, the house smelled like dust, old wood, and something sour. But nothing jumped, no gunfire, no yelling. We flowed room to room. Kitchen clear. Living room clear. Upstairs bedrooms clear, beds unmade, clothes on the floor. A plate of half-eaten food sat on a nightstand, frozen solid from the cold creeping through the house. The calendar on the wall had dates circled in red, paranoid scribbles about watchers, and they hear you. News clippings on the table were worse, articles about people vanishing. Hunters found without their faces, headlines about strange screams in the woods, all cut out and taped up like the walls were a warning board. But no suspects. Maybe they bailed, Harper whispered, voice tight. Food's fresh, Doc said. They were here this week, maybe today. Upstairs felt strange, like someone had left in a hurry but still expected to come back. I pushed the thought away. Basement door, Daniels called from the hall. It sat at the end, half hidden behind a rack of coats. Heavy wood. Reinforced edges. Latches bolted on the outside, multiple locks. Not normal farm stuff. Symbols were carved around the frame. Primitive shapes, circles with lines running through them. Looked like some bored kid's idea of magic wards, but the sheer number made my skin crawl. Mason knelt and brushed one with his glove. These people were serious about keeping something down there. Or keeping people out, Doc said. Carter stepped up beside me. Open it. We can clear the rest first, I suggested. This looks like someone's panic room. Open it, Carter repeated, eyes cold. I didn't like it, but orders. We worked the locks off one by one, metal clicking in the quiet hall. Each latch felt colder than it should have been. Right as the last lock slid free, a sound rose up through the floor. A child crying. Harper jerked back, rifle up. "What the hell?" Reyes swallowed hard. "You guys hear that, right?" "Yeah, every damn one of us." It wasn't loud, just a soft whimpering echo. Could have been a kid locked down there. Or something that wanted us to think that. "Hostage," Carter said. "Move." We pulled the door open, rifles aimed down. The stairwell smelled like mold and old metal. Frost clung to the railings. Our breath fogged out in front of us as we descended. The basement was bigger than expected, more like a bunker. Shelves lined the walls full of dusty tools and jars with murky liquid inside. A workbench covered in papers. A generator in the corner that wasn't running. We swept left, then right. No movement. The small room in the back drew our attention. A thin metal door. When I pushed it open, the stench hit like a slap. Inside was a mattress on the floor, stained, ripped. The concrete walls were clawed, long marks running in frantic directions, some deep, some shallow. Something had tried to get out. Hard. Ropes lay scattered, cut or torn. A metal ring was bolted into the floor, dried blood circling it like rust. Harper backed out fast, hand over her mouth. "No way a kid did that." "Something strong," Doc murmured. Reyes's voice cracked. "We need to find the kid, or whatever's left." Mason stepped toward a table holding a small digital voice recorder. Cheap, scratched. A red light blinked, still running on barely any battery. "Guess someone wanted to document the crazy," he said. Reyes picked it up. "Sarge, play it." He hit the button. Static at first, then voices. Adult voices chanting, low and shaky, like they didn't believe their own words. Then shouting. Clatter. Someone screaming, "Hold it! Hold it!" A new sound joined in. A voice I didn't want to hear again. A warped, broken attempt to mimic someone, repeating a word over and over. Wrong tone, wrong rhythm. Like it was trying to learn human speech one syllable at a time. The recording ended with one man yelling, "Shut it in," before the file cut off. Silence, cold and thick. Then a whisper crackled over every one of our radios. The same warped voice from the recording. Repeating the final word, "Shut it in," Harper flinched. Mason tightened his grip on his rifle. Even Carter looked shaken, jaw clenching. Doc's voice was low. "That wasn't an echo." "No," I said. It wasn't. The crying sound stopped, just gone. Like someone hit mute on the world. Carter straightened. Whatever these idiots summoned or messed with, they lost control. Suspects probably fled toward the marsh. We sweep the barn and the swamp. White's warning echoed in my head, tight and uneasy. Stay away from the marsh past midnight. I wanted to push back, tell Carter this wasn't our fight anymore, but he'd already moved toward the stairs. "Move," he said again, and for the first time that night, I knew something was wrong enough that no training or rank would fix it. We climbed out of the basement and headed into the cold again, chasing something we had no business chasing. We left the farmhouse behind and crossed the field toward the barn. Snow came up almost to our shins. Every step felt muffled, like the world was wrapped in thick blankets. The air tasted wrong, metallic, too still. Reyes kept looking over his shoulder. Harper kept her rifle glued to her shoulder. Mason muttered curses under his breath. Even Doc looked uneasy. Carter and Locke moved ahead like they already knew where this would end. White waited near the start of the marsh, arms folded, eyes scanning the reeds. He didn't look scared exactly, just resigned, like he knew exactly what lived out there and hated that we were walking straight into it. The barn loomed ahead, old wood sagging under layers of ice. The doors creaked open when Mason pushed them. Inside was darker than it should have been. We swept in. Flashlights moved across beams and rafters. Symbols again. Same crude carvings as the ones on the basement door. Carved into the support posts, into the walls, even scratched into the floor. Someone had tried hard to keep something contained, or prayed it would stay away. A cage sat in the center. Thick bars, bent outward. Whatever got out was strong, too strong. Animal carcasses hung from hooks along the back wall. Deer, maybe raccoons, couldn't tell. All twisted the same way as the ones outside. bones broken from the inside, flesh pulled apart in jagged patterns. Harper gagged quietly. "This is messed up." Doc examined a carcass. These weren't butchered. Something played with them. Something that got bored, Mason added. Reyes crouched near a pile of notebooks. He flipped one open with shaking fingers. "Listen to this. Breaking the skin, becoming the echo, summon the thing that learns." What the hell were these people trying to do? Carter scanned the pages. Idiots trying to weaponize folklore. They thought they could call something up and control it. White stepped inside. "You don't call things like this. They come when they want. They listen when they want. They feed when they want." Locke glanced at him. "And you think you understand it?" "I understand enough," White said. "And enough is knowing you should have stayed away." Before Carter could argue, Reyes jerked up, eyes wide. "Sarge," he whispered, "I heard your voice on my radio." "I didn't say anything," I said. "No, it said your exact words. Reyes, get to the tree line alone. Now." Mason blinked. "Why would Cole tell you that?" "He didn't," Reyes said. "But it sounded like him." My radio crackled. Then a perfect copy of Reyes's voice said, "Clear as day. On my way, Sarge." Reyes went pale. His weapon shook as he brought it up. "I didn't say that." Doc looked around the barn like he expected someone to drop from the rafters. "Someone's screwing with our comms. No hacker does this," Mason muttered. White stared toward the marsh. "It hears you. It's learning how you sound." The barn suddenly felt too small, like something watched us from the cracks in the boards. Harper stepped outside first, scanning the edge of the marsh. "Sarge, tracks." We gathered around her. Barefoot prints led into the reeds. Human-shaped, but wrong. Toes long and narrow. Heel deep like the thing weighed more than it should have. Skin impressions too smooth, like the foot didn't have normal texture. The trail went 10 feet, then vanished, just stopped. "No way, they just disappear," Price said. "They don't disappear," White answered. "They hide. They learn your rhythm. They step where you already stepped." A rustle moved through the reeds, something big. Weight-shifting water under the ice. Slow, deliberate. None of us saw a body, just reeds bending away from something passing between them. Like a snake the size of a man. Then a low clicking drifted out, bones or joints shifting. Harper whispered, "It's circling us." Carter snapped, "Push forward. Confirm no suspects remain." I stepped in front of him. "We're not chasing people anymore. Our orders stand," Locke said quietly. "Contain or kill." White shook his head. "You don't kill it like you think." Carter ignored him and motioned deeper into the marsh. "Move." For a second, I considered refusing. Flat out refusing. But my guys looked to me. And if we didn't move, Carter would push forward alone and probably get someone killed anyway. So I nodded, even though my stomach felt like ice. We stepped off the solid ground and into the marsh. Snow turned to slush under our boots. Mud sucked at our feet. Frozen water cracked beneath each step. The trees tightened around us, closing in like they didn't want us there. Fog began forming over the cold puddles, thin at first, then thicker. The air smelled of rot and cold earth. The reeds towered over us, brushing our shoulders, swaying even without wind. Every few seconds, we heard movement. Never close enough to see. Always just a little behind or beside us. Reyes kept looking at me. "Sarge, I think it's following our voices." "I know." "Then why are we?" "Because orders don't care what we think," Mason cut in. Harper flinched when something splashed to our right. Doc cursed under his breath. Price flipped his safety off. Even Carter slowed down, eyes darting across the water. The reeds shifted again. Something tall moved just out of sight. White murmured, "It's curious now." "That's bad." "Curious?" Harper whispered. "It wants to know what you sound like when you're scared." A chill ran down everyone's spine. Carter said nothing. For once, he had no smart answer. Every instinct in my body screamed to turn around and get my squad back to the trucks. But the reeds parted ahead, opening into a deeper stretch of the swamp. No tracks. No signs of people. Just fog and shadows. Something clicked again from deeper inside. Slow, almost like it was mocking us. I tightened my grip on my rifle. We'd pushed farther than we should have. Past what any sane man would consider a good idea. And somewhere out in that cold black water, something listened. Something practiced our voices. Something waited for us to get close enough. Far too close. The farther we pushed into the marsh, the worse the footing got. Snow turned to slush, Slush turned to cold water, and every step felt like the ground wanted to swallow us. Trees tightened around us, branches low and crooked, like they were leaning in to listen. Fog drifted across the frozen puddles. Thin at first, then thicker. The reeds hissed with tiny ice crystals shaking in the cold. Every sound echoed wrong. Harper swept her scope across the trees. Movement, maybe. Left side. What kind? I asked. I don't know. Just an arm, maybe. What kind of arm? Mason muttered. Long, she said. Too long. We all froze. Show me, I said. She steadied her breathing and peered again. There. Tree trunk at 11 o'clock. I followed her aim. For a split second, just a blink, I saw something pale curl around a trunk backward. Fingers thin and long, knuckles sharp like bone was poking out. An arm, wrong in all the ways an arm can be wrong. Then it pulled back and vanished behind the tree. Mason whispered, Nope. Nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not built for that. Stay focused, I said, even though my stomach dropped. The wind didn't move. The fog didn't shift. Everything felt like time had stopped. Then a voice shouted from deeper in the marsh, a man's voice. Panicked, slurred with cold. Help, please. I'm with the task force. They left me. We all jerked toward the sound. Carter's head snapped up. That's one of ours. Which one? Doc asked. The voice called again. Please. Help. Carter. Carter, it's me. Carter went still. That sounds like Agent Monroe. Locke glanced at him. Monroe disappeared weeks ago. Maybe he survived, Carter snapped. White shook his head, slow and grim. No man survives out here alone. Not with that thing hunting. The voice cried again, this time softer. Like it was failing, like it was cold, like it wanted us to pity it. Reyes's breathing sped up. Sarge, we gotta check. Carter pointed into the fog. Cole, take a team. Find him. Locke and I will hold perimeter. I didn't want to split. Everything in my bones said it was the worst idea possible. But refusing now would trap us in a standoff we couldn't afford. Mason, Harper, Reyes on me. We moved toward the voice, weaving through reeds and shallow pools. I kept scanning for any sign of footprints, drag marks, anything human. Nothing. Just frozen mud and faint impressions of reeds bent by something silent. The voice called again, weaker. Help! I'm freezing, Mason muttered. He sounds like he's dying. Or pretending to. Reyes looked at me. Sarge, what if it's really him? What if it isn't? Harper whispered. We reached a cluster of trees. Fog pooled thick around their bases. The crying came from just beyond a half-frozen pool. Then we saw it. A figure crouched near the water, back turned toward us, shoulders trembling, clothes torn and dirty. Same type of jacket the missing agents wore. Reyes gasped. Monroe? I lifted a handhold. Something felt wrong. The breathing, too steady, too slow. Like it was pretending. Monroe, I called. Turn around. The figure stiffened, then spoke. But it didn't answer my call. It copied my words, one beat late. Off rhythm. Like a kid learning to talk. Turn, around. Harper sucked air through her teeth. No way. The figure rose in one smooth motion. No shifting weight. No balancing. Just up, all at once, joints unfolding too perfectly. It turned. Its face stretched under thin skin. Mouth too wide. Eyes sunk deep like rotten pits. Its muscles twitched, trying to pull into a shape. First a stranger's face, then half of mine, then something else entirely. Like it had too many expressions and didn't know which one fit. Its mouth opened. My own voice came out. Wrong. Wet. Echoing. Cole, help, behind me, Reyes whimpered. No, 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 no. Mason raised his rifle. Sarge, fire, I said. Mason's first burst cracked through the trees. The thing jerked back but didn't fall. Its torso twisted, flesh folding but not tearing right. It staggered, then lunged forward, arms stretching too far, fingers digging into the mud. Shoot it, I yelled. All three of us fired. Bullets tore chunks out of its chest. Dark, thick blood splattered across the snow and ice. It screeched in three different voices at once. Mine, Reyes's, a child's. It hit the ground hard, limbs splayed in broken angles. Harper didn't lower her weapon. Is it dead? It twitched. Once. Twice. flesh bubbling like it was trying to knit back together. Then it went still. Reyes crouched, hands shaking. "So, we killed it, right?" From deeper in the marsh, something answered, in Mason's exact voice. "You wish." We all spun. Rifles up, breath gone. Mason's eyes went wide. That wasn't me." More voices rose from the fog. Mine, Harper's, Reyes's, White's. Dozens of copies, some older, some warped, all overlapping. One whispered my name with perfect timing. Another mimicked Reyes sobbing. Another giggled in Daniels' voice, who wasn't even with us on this element. Harper stepped back, rifle shaking. "There's more than one, or it doesn't die clean," Mason said quietly. The corpse at our feet began melting, bones softening like wet clay, flesh sinking into the mud. The smell turned sour and hot, like rotten fast forward. Reyes gagged. "We gotta move. We gotta go." He didn't need to convince me. We backed up, rifles sweeping the fog while voices kept calling to us, begging, pleading, laughing, mimicking, practicing. And somewhere out in the reeds, something big moved closer. The moment Mason's voice echoed back at us from the marsh, everything inside me locked up. Not fear exactly. Something colder. Something that says you're already in the wrong place and it's too late to fix it. The fog thickened fast. The trees around us looked closer than before. The snow under our boots felt softer, like it didn't want to hold us anymore. Then more voices came. My voice, Harper's voice, Reyes's voice, White's voice. All overlapping, all wrong. Some too sharp, some stretched thin. Some clipped like someone cut out pieces and pasted them back in the wrong order. One whispered, "Cole, this way." Another murmured, "Reyes, stay still." Harper whimpered under her breath. "It's us. It's copying us." "Keep moving," I said. "Back to the perimeter, now." As we pushed through the reeds, something splashed behind us, heavy, fast. But every time we spun, nothing was there, just fog shifting. Reeds swaying without wind. The corpse we'd shot melted into the mud like hot wax. Skin sliding off, bones folding inward. No blood pooling, just the ground drinking it all. Reyes whispered, "Things don't do that. Animals don't do that." "It isn't an animal," White said somewhere behind us. "It's older than that." We rejoined the perimeter just as hell broke loose. Daniel stumbled backward in the reeds, his voice cracking. Something moved. Something big. He didn't finish. Something yanked him down so fast the reeds exploded around him. A hard splash, a grunt, then silence. "Daniels!" Price shouted. We rushed forward, too late. All that remained was Daniels' rifle sticking out of the slush, half submerged in freezing water. No body. Just a smear of fresh blood. Something under the surface drifted away. Something large enough to leave a wake. Price fired into the reeds, panic shots slapping against ice and trees. Come back, you bastard. Stop." I grabbed his arm. "You'll hit Daniels if he's still." Before I finished, Daniels' voice rose from the reeds. "Sarge, help, something has my legs." Price bolted forward, but White grabbed him with both hands. "That's not him." Price froze, eyes wide. Daniels' voice cried again, weaker. Please help me." But the tone was wrong, the rhythm wrong. The way he said please was like someone who'd never used the word trying to guess how it sounded. Doc swallowed hard. "He's gone. That's not a man calling for help." The voices kept coming. Some were perfect copies. Some were half-built, like the creature was practicing. Some were older voices we didn't recognize. Hunters, maybe. Locals. Whoever else had gone missing out here. The radio exploded with noise. Our voices arguing, giving orders, cursing, screaming. All of us talking at once, but none of us touching our radios. White shook his head. "It's testing you. It wants to see if you'll break." Another splash echoed from deeper in the marsh, something fast circling. I made the call. "We're getting out. Now. Everyone fall back toward the farmhouse." Carter frowned. "We don't have proof of." "Shut up," I snapped. "We are leaving." "That's the call." Locke actually nodded. "He's right. We don't stay here." We moved as a group, tight formation. Weapons up, no breaks in the line. The fog got worse, shapes flickered in and out, tall, thin silhouettes sliding between trees. Too fast to track. Too quiet to shoot. Harper fired a burst at one. The thing disappeared before the bullets even hit the tree. Then the voices changed. They grew smoother, more accurate. The cadence tightened. The slang sounded natural. It said, "Copy that," in Mason's voice. Perfect timing. Mason flinched. "That's not me." Then it whispered into my ear so close I felt breath that wasn't breath. "You can't tell which is you and which is me." I spun, firing. Nothing was there. Nothing but fog and reeds. But the echo of my own voice drifted between the trees like a shadow. Our retreat turned into a slow, desperate fight backward. Shapes darted beside us, just out of sight. The reeds shook like hands reaching. Something scraped along the tree trunks, long nails or bone fingers. Something laughed in Harper's voice, high and thin and cruel. Reyes tripped on a submerged root. Mason dragged him up by the collar. Price nearly fired at Mason, thinking he'd heard his voice somewhere else. We were unraveling. The woods finally opened. The farmhouse sat ahead, its roof dark against the sky, snow blown over the steps, barn half hidden in the gray light. For a second, I thought we were safe. Then Harper stopped walking. "Sarge," she whispered, "look." On the roof of the farmhouse stood a figure. Tall. Thin. Wrong. It didn't move, didn't sway. Just stood there like it had been waiting. Its body looked human in the way a scarecrow looks human close, but never close enough. Parts missing, parts mismatched. Skin draped over it like a loose coat. Carter whispered, "Dear God." The thing tilted its head, copying the exact way Harper had tilted hers seconds ago. Then it crawled. Not forward, not sideways. It crawled straight down the wall, slow, smooth, limbs bending the wrong way until it hung upside down like gravity didn't matter. It dropped into the snow without a sound, and stood. Its mouth opened. All our voices spilled out at once. White whispered, "It knows you. It knows all of you now." The thing took one slow step toward us, and the woods behind us erupted with more voices. Ours. Dozens of copies. The marsh had emptied. They were all coming. I raised my rifle. Fall back to the house. Prepare to fight. And for the first time that night, I truly believed none of us were getting out. The thing stood in the snow like it owned the place. Tall. Thin. Skin sagging like it hadn't figured out how to wear it right. It spoke with all our voices at once. Mine, Mason's, Harper's, Reyes's layers stacked like it couldn't decide which mask fit. I didn't wait for Carter. Didn't wait for anyone. "Inside," I yelled. "Move," we sprinted across the yard. The thing didn't chase, not yet. Just watched us with its head tilted too far to the side, like it was studying, learning, picking which voice it wanted next. The farmhouse door slammed behind us. I barked orders fast. "Barricade the front." Mason, "Price drag that couch to the hallway." Harper, "Get eyes on the windows." Reyes, "Find something we can burn." The place looked worse now. Dark corners seemed darker. The symbols carved around the basement door felt like they were pulsing. White wiped snow from his coat. "It doesn't like fire. It won't kill it, but it will push it back." "That's good enough," I said. Reyes ran to the barn and came back with cans of fuel. We tore up old furniture, grabbed rags, dumped everything into choke points. The smell hit fast, sharp, oily, hopeful. Carter hovered near the back window, looking like he wanted to argue but didn't know how. "Command needs confirmation before we..." Locke cut him off. "We need to live long enough to give confirmation." The thing outside moved again. Harper stiffened at the window. "It's coming off the wall." We all froze. It crawled down the siding, backward, limbs bending too many ways, body twisted like a puppet someone yanked on wrong strings. Then it dropped to all fours, soft, like a cat landing, but its legs shook like they weren't meant for that shape. The voices inside its mouth kept changing, switching masks, snapping between tones. Doc whispered, "It's cycling through us." White closed his eyes for a second. "It's choosing one." The creature took a step toward the house. Then another. "Positions," I shouted. We got to windows and corners. The front door creaked under some unseen pressure. The walls felt like they were shrinking. The creature suddenly rushed forward fast and low, faster than anything human. It hit the side of the house, claws scraping wood, and burst through the living room wall in an explosion of splinters. Mason fired first. Rounds slammed into its chest. Price joined in. Harper shot from the staircase. Blood dark, thick splattered the walls. The thing twisted, avoiding full hits. Its body bent around bullets like it was learning how to move mid-fight. It crawled across the ceiling, claws sinking into old wood. Doc shouted, "It's above you." Reyes swung his rifle up. The thing dropped on him. I grabbed Reyes by the collar and yanked him aside. His claws raked the floor where he'd been. It lifted its head. Doc's voice came out. "Help me, please." Harper almost stepped forward. I grabbed her vest and dragged her behind cover. "That's not Doc." The thing hissed in my voice. "That's not Doc." White and Reyes lit the soaked rags. Flames snapped to life, racing along the floor, catching the fuel we'd poured into a ring around the center of the room. "Do it now," White yelled. Reyes flicked his lighter and tossed it into the biggest pool of fuel. Fire roared across the boards, climbing up broken furniture and old curtains. The flames boxed the creature in. For the first time all night, it hesitated. And in that pause, the firelight showed its real form. Patches of stretched skin, bits of faces half-formed, one cheek resembling Monroe's, another flickering into Mason's jawline, then melting into something else. Its arms were too long, elbows bending both ways. Its spine bulged and twisted like it had too many bones and none of them belonged. It shrieked, loud, furious. Its voice cracked into 7 layers. Our voices, its own voice, someone we didn't know. A mangled chorus. We opened fire again. Every shot hit. Reyes screamed as his mag ran dry, then reloaded with shaking hands. Harper kept firing even as tears streaked her face. Blood sprayed in streaks across the walls, thick and heavy. The creature stumbled. Flames crawled up its legs. It tried to climb the ceiling again, but the fire blocked its path. It turned toward the window, but the heat pushed it back. Finally, it dropped to the floor. Spasms ran through its limbs. It sagged, flesh melting, bones buckling. The farmhouse beams crackled overhead. The roof groaned, smoke filling the rooms. "Time to go," I shouted. We dragged Harper, her leg bent wrong, and Doc bleeding from his arm, out the back door. White stayed beside us, chanting something under his breath. Maybe a prayer, maybe just courage. As we hit the yard, Carter was already screaming into his radio. "We have a gas leak, repeat, gas leak and structural fire. We need extraction now." Reyes coughed smoke. "They're not going to believe any of this. They don't have to," Mason said. "They just have to get us out." Flames consumed the house. Glass shattered, wood popped. The whole structure groaned like it was collapsing inward. I turned one last time. Through a gap in the burning floorboards, an arm reached up, charred, twisted, fingers stretching toward the air. It clawed once, twice, then sank into the fire. I didn't cheer, didn't celebrate, didn't trust it. We just limped into the snow, numb from cold and something worse, waiting for the night to end. We made it back to the staging area just before dawn. The sky was the same dull gray as the marsh, like the night hadn't fully died. Snow drifted across the road. Our trucks sat where we left them, engines cold, windows frosted. Emergency lights flashed up the trail. Local fire crews, an ambulance, then black SUVs rolling in slow and quiet. The kind of vehicles that meant nothing good. Tires crunched, doors opened. Men in plain jackets stepped out, no name tags, no unit patches. They didn't look surprised. That bothered me more than anything else. We were herded into a canvas aid tent. A propane heater rattled in the corner. They handed us water bottles, blankets, clipped little pulse sensors on our fingers. A medic I didn't know checked Harper's leg and wrapped Doc's arm. Reyes sat in a folding chair staring at the ground, hands still shaking. Carter argued with someone outside. Couldn't hear the words, just the tone. Angry, frustrated, helpless. Locke kept pacing, eyes unfocused, like he expected another voice to come out of the forest. One of the men in the black jacket stepped inside. Stern face, clipboard, hair cut too neat. He didn't introduce himself. He simply said, "We'll need all your devices." "Devices?" Mason muttered. "Helmet cams, radios, drones, personal phones," the man said. "All of it, hand it over." Nobody argued. Not even Carter. Reyes unclipped the drone feed unit with stiff fingers, eyes never leaving the floor. Harper's phone went into a plastic bin. Mason muttered curses but obeyed. The man checked each item, marked something on his clipboard, and walked out without another word. A different official came in, older, calm. "We'll debrief shortly," he said. "This operation will be logged as a routine mooring service. Fire caused by old wiring. Structural collapse. One casualty still listed as missing. Daniels." Price stared at the floor. Doc shook his head. Harper started shaking, not from cold. Mason whispered, "They're not even going to pretend, huh?" The official continued. "No mention of unusual wildlife activity. No mention of any unidentified persons. No mention of mimicry, auditory illusions, or visual distortions." He looked at each of us. Slow. "This is the version you will repeat. Understood?" No one answered. Didn't matter. He left. Harper woke screaming less than an hour later. She yelled in my voice, my exact tone, my exact phrasing, even though she was unconscious. Her mouth moved with the words. I had to hold her shoulders down until the medics sedated her. White found me outside the tent while the others rested. Snow fell in thin flakes. He stood with his hands in his pockets, breath steady, eyes on the tree line. "You kept them alive," he said. "Not all of them." "No," he agreed, "but more than I expected." I leaned on one of the SUVs. "What the hell did we fight out there?" He exhaled slow. "People will use whatever word makes them feel like they understand it. Skinwalker, spirit, shapeshifter, doesn't matter. That thing isn't from any story my people tell. It's older than stories. It copied us," I said. "Better the longer it listened." "It doesn't wear skin," White said. "It wears sound first. Skin comes later, faces later. It's patient, and it's drawn to chaos. Fear, anger." He paused. "Fire hurts it. Maybe the only thing that does." I stared at the snowy ground. "So we didn't kill it." "No," he said, "but you heard it. Maybe enough that it'll stay quiet a while." He walked off toward the trees, disappearing like he belonged there more than anywhere else. The next thing I remember is sitting in the back of a transport truck, the heater rattling, everyone silent. Harper sedated, Mason staring straight ahead, Price gripping his rifle sling like a lifeline, Reyes still shaking, Doc exhausted. Hours later, we were back on base. They split us up for written statements. They fed us the official story again and again until the words stuck. Years passed. Now I sit in this little studio with a mic in front of me, some interviewer looking for spooky stories soldiers tell in bars. And I tell him the truth, or as close as I can. He asks, "So why call it a skinwalker if it wasn't one?" I rub my hands together. The room feels too warm. "Because people know what that word means," I say. "Something that wears you, that's what it tried to do." He plays back a short clip of our conversation. "Just checking the audio," he says. But when it replays, one word echoes wrong. Not my tone, not my timing. Almost right, but not quite. I freeze. He looks at me. "Glitch, maybe?" I stare at the recorder. My throat feels tight. You heard that too, right? So that's the end of our video. If you made it this far, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free. And if you want more terrifying encounters like this one, check out the other videos on screen right now. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there. See you soon.